Back once again on the LJLOU stream. That's officially unofficial for any of you that followed us, of course, last year. And we are here finishing off our Week 3 coverage of LJL Spring 2021. We've covered 2 games so far from the first 4 games of Week 3, and we have 2 left to bring you, which will be brought to you by, of course, Samuel, Initialize Habgood, and Alex, Lexio, Mass One. We call them all 3 of those names and many more on this broadcast. And they will be bringing to you Crest Gaming Act versus Rascal Jester. You can see it at the bottom of our screen. This matchup is one which, honestly, before last game, we might have had a bit of a Rascal Jester leaning, but is it his? I guess bringing this over to you guys now. CGA kind of snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, particularly after that early game in Mass One, because you're coming onto this for the first time for us today. CGA coming out of that last game, they managed to pull out some pretty big team fights, but against Rascal Jester, who are strong in the early game, how are they feeling in this matchup?
Well, as long as they don't run it down like they did in the previous game, I have a lot more hope for CGA. I actually rate this team pretty highly. I do think we're already identifying, though, probably on the most important topic when we talk about the Rascal Jester early game. We have to look at the bot lane of Rascal Jester. And that's where, sadly, the first 2 kills, as it was a 2v2 loss that happened in the bot lane for Crest Gaming Act. I am worried that potentially Soul and Secret might have their own souls and the secret to Crest Gaming Act, and might figure out this bot lane, which I'm a bit worried about.
Harry LJL and the bot lane of secrets and then souls, apparently. Initialize, heading back over to you. Of course, Milan has struggled early on. We've seen their misfortune use a lot of defensive bullet time, seen them really get pushed around in lane. But for the first time, it seemed, felt in his own comfort zone, coming into the 2 to 3 item team fights later into the game. So Initialize, for CGA on the other side of things, in that bot lane, how do you think these team fights are going to play out, particularly around these AD carries?
Sol and Secret have definitely got a certain amount of experience over Milan, and they've also been very aggressive. Milan had a decent mid game in that last time out. Got a couple good fights, that one around the Baron in particular coming to mind, where we found some really good use of the Gale Force and the likes. But kind of one game out of 4 or 5 at this point, and he's had some rough early games. And Mass One already called it out that it's all well and good coming to a team fight and being a good team fight AD carrier, but you've got to survive the early game to get there. You've got to have the items to make you really sting. AD carriers are arguably the most item reliant characters in the damn game. They would scale so hard. Maybe something like an Azir might be out there, but even then he's got things like the utility of the Emperor's Device.
Cassiopeia would like a word,
useful.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there are obviously exceptions, but I guess my point is, as a class, AD carries tend to be so item reliant. They are so stat reliant, and if Milan is falling too far behind in lane, then it's all well and good coming into mid game team fights with good instincts, but if you can't use them, then there's a problem.
Well, gone are the days of utility AD carries. At least for now. We'll see where they come back in the future. I guess I'm not mincing words about this now. Coming into week 3, both CGA and Rascal Jester were 2 and 2. And this is now, these are 2 direct rivals to each other. It hasn't always felt like that coming out of each of these games, but we've seen Kassin playing early game junglers, bringing out the Rek'Sai, bringing out so many different things, whereas Rascal Jester just looked very clean on their early game rotations. Lexi, if these 2 teams are competing against each other, where are the most important areas of the game for them to focus on?
Outside of the bot lane being its own special little thing, Nahun on Crest Gaming Act has been shown to well and truly take the crown that Arya left for them, and
Maybe
has
it's the
gone
CJ mid laner crown.
CJ mid laner crown. He's done very well. He's done real well.
We can also argue that Kassin is also trying to take that crown of the rookie mid laner, coming out of absolutely unknown territory over in Korea, and then coming over into the LJL, coming into Crest Gaming Act specifically, and then actually showcasing some very impressive mechanical level of play, doing their own kind of thing. This is incredibly reminiscent of Arya in so many different ways, but as is Nahun's playing as well. So it's like, well, maybe these are the players. We do need to touch on this top lane, though, because Nap had phenomenal performance, even in their loss, because he was able to just zone and find out so many different ways into that fight, even though they did lose to the Hawks. Kanatu, I'm pretty high on this guy. Obviously, he is a scouting grounds guy. I love all my scouting grounds boys, but he's been a bit of the weak point for Rascal Jester, and I don't want to say it, but yeah, Recap has not been that weak point. It's been in the top lane, and I'm a bit worried about them.
Bit worried about them. Well, worry no more. I think it is about time to get into that champ slate. I'm going to ask quickly for predictions because, well, you know, I like to put you on the spot. Initialize. Show the cards.
All right, so I'm going back over the predictions I made, and I have got to stick by them at this point. So I favored Rascal Jesters coming into this one.
And, Lexi, what was your opinion on this matchup?
Loading up my predictions as
I can
well.
tell you now.
Please tell me, actually.
You were Rascal Jester as well on your predictions. You can join us in your predictions games as well.
I will
Join us.
I will definitely keep with mine.
Luckily, because I'm the host, I don't have to tell you mine. I can't remember. It's actually time to get over to picks and bans, where these two will be the only voices you'll have to suffer through in the next couple of minutes. So, as we always say, take it away.
Who's suffering here, Nightmare? What are you talking about? Mine and Lexi's voices will carry you to a place of joy as we talk about CGA versus Rascal Jesters. CGA returning to the Rift, this time on the blue side with Nap, Cassin, Nation, Milan, and Alchemy making up their roster.
We got Kanatu, Hachimecha, Recap, Soul, and Secret to round out Rascal Jester. 2 bans already coming in for Rascal Jester. That's the Lucian from away from Nahun, as well as Twist of Fate. And then over on for Crest Gaming Act, it's Kai'Sa and those double farming junglers that we keep seeing of Udyr and Olaf.
Yeah, they're farming brawlers, and Hachimecha has looked really good on both. It's his kind of playstyle. He's really smart with them. His early game kind of pathing has always been a strength. His ability to kind of go, I am going to path this way and catch out the enemy jungler or enemy mid laner or somebody in a bit of an awkward spot. I'm reminded of their game versus DFM, where Hachimecha found a really smart gank onto Arya to get first blood, kind of skirting where Steel had just been. Beautiful stuff. See whether he can do it in this game. Might be a little harder with the junglers that have been banned away. Naps, Renekton went down as the last ban for Jesters, and CGA instead will first pick Seraphine. It's a flex pick, but that is a bold first choice.
So we have seen Seraphine from Nahun already, so this definitely could be a mid lane pick. This also could be a support pick. I doubt Milan is quite as spicy enough to do it in the AD carry role and do that crazy hyper carry Seraphine that you can see occasionally, but for the side of Rascal Jesters, they're actually deciding to respond with the Senna and not picking high priority over that. And that Senna's very important because not typically do we see her being that aggressively picked.
No, I think that's probably true. And it signals a bit of an interesting choice in draft here, I think, for the Jesters. Of course, only yesterday did we see a Senna hit 91 souls and absolutely destroy kids. But she takes a while to get there. She does. And it's not necessarily something that you might expect to punish Milan and Alchemy in a way that perhaps Sol and Secret have kind of been famous for. Think about their Leona Kai'Sa games where they've kind of gone a bit nuts on those champions, and possibly not the play pattern that they will be getting a hold of here. Does mean that Milan gets a hold of his beloved Misfortune, and they lock in the Gragas as well. And that's not a bad pick for, I suppose, either Cassin or Nap. Both are probably more than willing to pick that up. In fact, I want to say Cassin's already picked up a Gragas game at some point.
Yeah, Alchemy could also still play that if that Seraphine does end up going into the mid lane. So it's a triple flex. There's a lot of options there. As we see the Orianna immediately locked in. So Rascal Jesters are literally playing this draft by their own devices. They almost seemingly don't care what Crest Gaming Act do. They just want to lock in very specific champions. They've identified that this is what they like to play. Clearly, the Gnar going right into the middle. I wouldn't be too surprised if we see a heavy engage and a Yasuo ban. Okay.
So, Nation definitely plays Yasuo, gotta remember, and Cassin did pull out the Gragas versus DFM. So Gragas Yasuo is a devastating combo, and Orianna has very little to say about that fact unless she's got a flash to get herself out. They'll ban the Azir as well, so those are big team fight carries from the mid lane out away from Nation, who has been a superlative carry for CGA. On the other side, as you're right, like that's Orianna and Senna and not big team fight combo, but honestly, Bullet Time, Explosive Cask, and Encore, it's hardly weaken a team fight itself for CGA. So both of these squads gearing up for a very heavy 5v5, at least for now.
Yeah, this definitely feels like we're getting that. We see that Rel and Lilia be banned, so Rascal Jesters are going to have some decisions when it comes to the jungle. I imagine we're going to see Probably a support be picked up here for Rascal Jester, and then wait around for CJ to show their
Might be
full
smart.
options, and then no, ooh, this
Okay.
Jarvan could play flexible though.
I would say we say that's jungle, and then again I was like, we've seen some AP Jarvan support round and about. It's not as completely mental as you might think. Either way, it's locked in. That's another good engage tool for the Orianna ball. It's Cataclysm, so there's just a lot of team fight right now. Even more so, of course. And CJ have got their last picks to pick up, looking up potentially a mid laner, potential support depending on where the Seraphine goes, and potentially a jungler, potentially a top depending on where the Gragas goes.
Crest Gaming Act have really
Whoa,
hit him this. Whoa,
okay, it's here again. Oh, we saw Nocturne yesterday. Tell me more about it, Lexi.
Okay, so Nocturne was played yesterday, and instead of being offensive, we got a defensive, like a reactionary Nocturne that was actually just pressing the ultimate to just disable vision for the enemy. Just going, you're not allowed to see each other. We're going to come in one by one from the shadows and go everywhere. And oh my
No.
god.
Okay,
What?
so this could be a Seraphine mid Rumble top. This could be a Rumble mid, Gragas top, Nocturne jungle. You were assuming the Nocturne has to go in jungle actually, which means probably
Yeah.
Gragas top, Rumble. Oh my god. Seraphine
Rumble
mid,
could
Gragas
also
support,
go
Rumble top.
support,
That's
yeah.
so many flexes. It could be Rumble mid. It's not that far removed from what we were seeing last season. A lot of options there for CJ. We'll see where they all end up. Rascal Jester's last pick, the Thresh, going, uh, what do we do? Nocturne, but that is a hell of a dive and burn comp. Nocturne goes in, throws in an Encore and a Equalizer on top of it. Big team fight comps from both, but a lot more dive from CJ, and that is looking like a Rumble mid Seraphine support Gragas top with that Nocturne in the jungle.
Okay, so we're going to see the battle of the Yordle in his little rock'em sock'em robot facing off against the actual robot herself in the mid lane. God, this is not a matchup I've covered.
Mechs versus robots. Here we go.
Yeah, I've not covered this matchup for a hot minute. It's been a while since we've seen Rumble. I get reminiscence of Ace in spring of 2020.
Oh, yes.
For that, but mostly it wasn't really a thing in summer, as even Ace had abandoned it mostly by that point. But okay, so we're into this. Wow. Okay, there's so much to unpack. I'm almost a bit flustered by how much just came out of this draft.
I mean, if you do this right, that's a lot of wombo combo. Gragas ult into Equalizer, into Encore with bullet time over the top, and Cassin dives, and whoever unfortunate soul is caught in between it all. Sounds pretty nice, of course, but on the other side, Nah has a beautiful setup with Jarvan because, of course, the walls of Cataclysm work beautifully for Mega Nah. Jarvan plus Orianna is a combo as old of time. Plod over the Dawning Shadow, and that's not a bad team fight combo either. I'm expecting some explosive Dragon and Baron fights.
So what we can expect to see from the side of Crest Gaming Act to really hammer your point home is obviously with the Seraphine, with the bullet time, with the Gragasol, obviously CGA are revving themselves up for a huge team fight. They're going to look to try and really disgruntle and kind of minimize the impact that of the side of Rascal Jesters can really have in their own team fight. Obviously, they've got Cataclysm with the Orianna Ball and Narolt. But outside of that, the support Secret is going to have to be really impactful with this Thresh, because obviously Thresh can be sometimes the most impactful player. We've seen that on Gang. Obviously, I've got huge remembrance of when Gang was able to hook the Naps Rumble. Naps playing Renekton, and this pretty much prevented him from playing this game. But in this game, there's a lot of high priority targets on the side of Crest Gaming Act. If you can hook the right one, if you can hook Milan, if you can hook Alchemy, if you can hook Nahun, there's a good chance that the side of Rascal Jesters could become victorious in these team fights. It's going to be very wombo combo from both sides.
Okay, so a bit of a note from production, who's done a little research on this Rumble. Seen it 11 games in the mid lane and 7 at top, mostly in the LPL, which I suppose is no surprise. And general build is to go towards the Night Harvester into Void stuff, which kind of makes sense. It's that pen build, but obviously Night Harvester at the minute. It's partly why you saw it on Karthus as well, is you press R and hit everybody and get a massive burst of damage from Night Harvester, and suddenly you're really damn fast, which means you can just run people down with your Flame Spitter and the likes.
He's also adding that Not only, but obviously Night Harvester, you get the ability haste, which just means you get to press your buttons faster. And as a Rumble, you want to press your buttons faster because then you get to overheat, you get to do even more damage and really push over the top. It's gonna be important to see this. Obviously, this Rumble is a different Rumble. It's gonna be far more all in on the damage, I imagine, as opposed to Rumbles we've seen at the past in spring, which were a bit more off tank, if you remember rightly.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see, how, of course, how this plays out. Got a few options here, but you can see the level 6 for CGA definitely very potent between Rumble Equalizer, Paranoia from Nocturne, the Cask, and from Gragas, the Encore, Bullet Time. The moment you hit 6, if those ultimates work, CGA will look phenomenal. If they don't, things get a little trickier. Of course, Rascal Jester's fairly ultimate reliant themselves. Cataclysm and Shockwave, definitely very high priority. Hell Dawning Shadow as well. Pretty nice on that front, but maybe a touch more consistent damage outside of those ults. Whereas CGA, desperately want those up at all times.
So everything looks pretty standard here, except for Secret on the runes department, going for Predator Thresh. It's not completely out there, but that's definitely interesting. I wonder if part of the reason that they've gone for this Predator is due to the fact that there are like 2 to 3 important members, and if they're able to get that speed boosters, they're already going to start on a fight.
Hey, double flay. That'll be a nice start, of course. And Rascal Jesters win the ward war in that middle bush. Secret starting with the flay definitely makes that one work out really nicely.
We all remember the Ward War.
Yeah, the Ward War of 143. Rascal Jesters came out in that first battle, but the war itself is definitely not done. Definitely contention over that early game, and can see from Blitzcrank sound of it, about a 52% chance according to stats in the AI that CJ come out ahead in this game, but relatively even.
Yeah, I mean Blitzcrank bot looking at this and going, well, I'm not on the map this time, so I'm not going to favor the team that has
Another
me.
flay. Milan stepping up and not being happy about that one. Nice play by Secret.
And so far, so good. They are pushing the advantage. Crest Gaming Act having to play a bit from the behind. I mean, that was partly just due to the I got it. It's weird to say this, the ward wars, but this is also just down to the fact Secret finding some great pick and poke from Soul as well. However, Kanatu in this top lane is looking pretty unhealthy, and this looks like the fat man with the Gragas has been throwing a lot of barrels at this little Yordle.
Yeah, you can see both Nocturne and Jarvan also pathing from top to bottom. That essentially leaves a bit of a scuffle to occur in the next few moments. Probably that around that 3:15 mark with the Skull Crabs all spawning. We'll see whether Jarvan wants to look for a gank, but I suspect Hatchemetcha will at least have first pick of that Skull Crab. But I say that, but Nayan has priority in mid, even if Rascal Jester have priority in bot. So maybe we see a little bit more contention around this.
Yeah, there's definitely an opportunity. Scuttle Crabs are going to be spawning, and obviously we can already see Hatchemetcha getting that. Clear speed slightly faster. Well, actually, Hatchemetcha didn't go for a full jungle clear. He started on his red and went straight down over to his blue, taking all the camps that are in his path. We see Kassin here doing a full jungle clear, finishing that, and now is resetting. They're both probably going to be indexing towards this top side unless there is anywhere else that they consider going, but it makes more sense to both go for that risk as well as also Hatchemetcha needs to go and do his grumps. So probably still not going to see any jungle pressure until at least the 4:30 mark.
This is really rough for Milan and Alchemy. They've gone for Seraphine
Yeah.
Misfortune, which should be really like push dominant, if nothing else, between high notes and the double up, and instead they're down over 10 CS, I think, at this point. It's not even 5 minutes. That is a really difficult space to be in. Sol and Secret have been landing a lot of their abilities and just trading back what feels kind of freely at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, the range advantage that Senna offers, obviously there's always a threat that if any of those two members, if the Seraphine or the Misfortune step a bit too far up, there is a chance that a threshold will just come out of nowhere and go in, but Kassin is on the hunt for this little Yordle.
Ah, he definitely is. Spot does have hop. Might look for a bit of the flash body stand will a flash in response to the hop out from Kanato, and he does survive.
And he's able to escape with his life, thankfully, but Sadly, he did have to burn that flash. And he's recently used their teleportation, meaning that obviously when it comes back around for Nap, he will actually have a very effective reset here, whereas Kanatsu's going to be pretty far behind, and he's already down that 10 CS. So while it's going rather well for Rascal Jester in the bot lane, this top lane, it's not going so well. However, at least the farm between the two players in their lanes, respectively, isn't so bad. If we have a quick look over at this mid lane, as Hachimetra is poking Dragon just to pull it out, and probably might actually start this. He does have his bot lane pushing in, so he has got priority in the mid lane.
I have returned. I am back.
Welcome back, sir.
Momentary crash on OBS there, which is a little bit scary. I suddenly couldn't see the game, and apparently I was sounding like a robot. I'm a human, I promise. There is no metal in me at all. None of that.
Well, I've been
completely
filling
human.
in perfectly for you, sir. Almost seemingly
well,
as if you had never disappeared.
See? Oh, that's amazing, man. That's true talent. Flexible casters, just the best.
You're so right, mate. Don't worry. Don't flatter me too much, but keep going. Keep going.
Well, we'll see how it goes, of course. We've got a little bit of, wonder how, of course, it all works out. Nothing too much to write home about. Slight gold lead to Jesters, I suppose, of about 500. And that's mostly, honestly, around where this bot lane is at, because Sol has got a very significant CS lead down there. 20-odd CS just from pure laning alone is a big margin.
It is. It's a huge margin. The top lane is going to obviously balloon out a little bit when Nap is able to secure all of this farm in the top lane, but this bot lane is something we do have to keep going back to, because while these junglers still haven't had an impact and Secret is looking to try and do something in this top lane, they do know that their top laner did get pressured, so they are looking to match that, and Nap hasn't got flash at the moment, but this wave is crashing in and there's already a pink ward here. Herald is going to be up in a minute, but Secret, you're a minute early for this.
Yeah, I've currently not got OBS, so you might just keep going for a second here,
Okay.
Lexi, while I'm gonna see whether I can get this
No
back up
worries, no
and
worries.
on
I'll
my
keep
end.
going. I'll keep going. So we saw Kassin doing amazing, immediately ticking over to 6, getting Kanatu right under the Crest Gaming Act turret. So it was rather free, even though we had seen as we come into this replay, the moment that 6 pops over, Kanatu steps a bit too far forward. Amazing explosive casket, and then when that casket hit, it's 3 easy. And that what's very frustrating for the side of Rascal Jester is obviously they were planning to get this Rift Herald. They were planning to set up beautifully for it. However, they weren't able to do it. But at the moment, as it stands in the mid lane, these two mid laners haven't had much of an impact outside of AFK farming, which both Rumble and Oriana will be more than happy to do, and just try and figure out how they have to play this game a little bit later.
And of course, my internet decides it's time to die just as First Blood comes through, which feels remarkably thematically appropriate. But I come back and I see that top lane has worked out for CGA pretty well there. Kassin returning the favor, having blown the gank earlier. And you did say you were a little nervous about Kinatu in our pre-game segment, and might have some reason to be worried. Of course, bot lane has stabilized a little here at this point. And top lane, on the other hand, Nap and Kassin definitely teaming up really well. And the top side of the map has been very strong for CGA over the last few weeks, proving to be so here in this game as well.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with Kassin. He's a brand new rookie, obviously coming out of absolutely nowhere. He was part of DRX's academy, but he was like a substitute for them, so a complete, like, relatively no name. But was picked up by Crest Gaming Act, and so far we've been really impressed. Plays the game very much their own way with these Rek'Sais, these Inzaos, and this time playing Nocturne, not the typical meta stuff, but hey, it's working out for them beautifully. Nap is just trying to get some vision, and they're well aware that Hachimetra is doing this Rift Herald, especially when it pops over. They're like, okay, that is where Hachimetra is, it's not anything else crazy. Now we can reset, and now we know exactly where their jungler is. He's probably going to have to reset around, and now Kassin can probably think,
Indeed.
what's the locations that makes the most amount of sense for Hachimetra to be going to? Blue buff might be coming up. That's where they're probably going to go towards.
Yes, of course, Kassin does, of course, now have that paranoia available. Nation as well with the equalizer. Look for the cask as well, and they really want this now, I think, Lexi.
They do, but Kassin was seen on Vision. Oh, no, Nahian was seen on Vision, so Kanatu knows to walk very aggressively away. He was seen on a pink ward that's very deep into Chris Gaming outside of the jungle. I don't know who placed that, but whoever placed it, it was really good. It might be from when Secret and Hachimetra came up to the top lane to try and assist Kanatu before Kanatu went a bit too far, thinking they were safe,
Boy.
and then finally fall into that first blood, but gank's coming in.
if you were setting up on the top, so you had to be aware on the bot. Here comes the teleport. The encore back, though. The outplay's looking strong. That's a massive equalizer to get a hold of Hatcher Metcher. Cask comes out. Recap knocked away with a secret as well, but it's to the sides and not quite back. Couldn't quite get it even with the flash. Either way, CGI turn around the attempted dive in bot side.
Okay, so that was amazingly well played. It looked like Rascal Jester were going to get probably a kill onto one of the members of the Crest Gaming Act bot lane, but it wasn't going to be enough. And a phenomenal Senna, not Senna.
Seraphine?
It's Seraphine, but I always
There
think
we
of
go.
her as Senna because I am a Senna main.
They're
so
very
I'm-
similar characters. Yeah, they
They
look
are very
exactly the
similar.
same.
If one of them's good, the other one's also good. They talk about music a lot. As it comes
Alright.
in, the teleport immediately gets popped in by both mid and top lane. This ultimate popping out was huge for the disengage, and then they just don't expect this casket to come out. I imagine if this casket was thrown only on the idea of trying to get soul, there might have actually been another kill over for Crest Gaming Act. But hey, we don't criticize when they're doing well because hey, you're doing good already. Don't worry about it. First items
So-
coming in already, and this Gore Drinker is here for
indeed.
this Nocturne.
Absolutely. Gore Drinker is the go-to on Nocturne right now. It's less burst than old Lethality Nocturne, but it's a little bit more sustain. And he's already got a fair amount in his kit, honestly. So he's feeling pretty happy about that. He's running that lethal tempo as well. So you can imagine what happened when you get to just sit and wail on people with your Umbral... It's not Umbral Glaives. He's got that weird passive, though. It's Umbral Glaive. It's so similar to the item, I always forget. And I get nervous that I've got it the wrong way around. Maybe production can remind me in a second or two. But either way...
It's been a long time since I played Nocturne, mate, so I can't help you there.
Well, there we go. We
Umbral
are looking...
Blades.
Umbral Blades compared to Umbral Glaive. So
So
frustrating. Either way, Umbral was right. It's a weapon of... bladed weapon of sorts as well. Right, either way, we're looking at about 1,000 gold leave for CGA, but it has been in trade for the early Herald and 2 Drakes for Jesters. That's been the trade of pressure. It means that this game, in a lot of ways, is relatively even. Milan at least gets a couple plates in that bot side, but Secret is here looking for the gank. Nice danger sense from Nap, though, to avoid to kind of spot out Secret even without the vision. That pink ward's still here. Will finally be spotted out by Cassin. A Nation and this Nocturne looking for some in the bot lane. What an encore! And the bullet time comes out, but Sol manages to get out with the flash. Both ultimates down, but it does come at the trade of the summoners as engage in the blue side. Jungle come through. Cassid in danger. Falls down to Secret. And this Jarvan who go for the great invade while all that bot lane pressure was happening.
Yeah, a little bit frustrating that obviously Secret does get that kill. They would have much prefer it to get onto Hachimechi so he can get his Gore Drinker. But hey, have to play with what we get at the moment. And getting the kill is far better than Kassin. Nocturne ulting away into absolute nowhere. And yeah, getting a kill is always better than Nocturne running away like with the paranoia onto some random champion and hopeful that they are able to be escorted out as a weird kind of reverse taxi service. But it doesn't matter, as we do see Milan picking up the Kraken Slayer
Big
now.
time.
Kraken Slayers for both of these AD carries. It's definitely currently still in the favor, though, of Rascal Jester in this bot lane.
Yeah, it is, but Cassin's going to be around, doesn't have the paranoia, but does have vision, and maybe they could look for something. Yeah, though it might be a little risky. There comes the make it rain, but Milan takes a vast amount of damage. Will miss on that Q, and now Sol and Secret need to find a way out. Flash in with the Gore Drinker active, trying to get in. Sol, though, has got himself that Curse of the Black Mist to try and escape. Lands the last embrace, and Cassin goes too deep and goes down to Sol. But the turnaround with the equalizer is big. Sol is burning, but it's not quite enough and will survive. That'll be a 3rd degree and a trip to the hospital bed afterwards, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is also worth noting is they did get a few of these plating, and what the amount of minions that Kinatu is going to be missing in this top lane is just going to keep getting larger and larger. And not just this, but it's what Caedrel's been saying so much on LEC. It's the experience. The gold sometimes you can just deal with. It's like, okay, I'm just going to hit my item spike a little bit later. The experience you can never make up in any other way of this game. You can get kills, but they don't give the same
Sure.
amount of experience. So we come into this replay, and let's identify some of this. Really well played by Milan, tries to get that, but gets absolutely punished by that. That hook, if
Oh.
that landed, oh my God. But it's actually probably a good thing that it didn't land. Kassin gets completely zoned out, especially by the box here. And then Kanatu comes in with this teleportation. they might have not needed Kanatsu considering how everything goes. The Rumble ultimate is really nice. However, they don't quite have that follow-up as the Seraphine ultimate had already been used not too long before. So not able to follow up, but hey, it was at least preventing them from the side of Rascal Jesters from engaging further.
That's a couple games in a row where we've seen Cassian just try and engage with his face. And like, we appreciate the aggression from this guy, we really do. But that kind of thing, you're going in without paranoia, you flash into two, and then you get turned around on real quick. Just a little bit too much. Night Harvester is complete though now for this Rumble, which means that when Nation throws that ultimate out, it's going to really sting. Kinatu probably needs to be a little bit careful about where he's walking. Takes a big belly bop to the face. Chem Tank in for Gragas, not Night Harvester, of course, so he'll be more tanky than his the other option, as a beat drop does come over there as Hachimecha kind of caught in place briefly, but he's a relatively tanky boy right now and not going to take too much damage from a support Seraphine of all things, so 15 seconds till this Ocean Drake. This would be Ocean Soul Point desperately early for the Jesters, and CGA will want to fight this, and they got the items and the ultimates to do it. In fact, all of their ultimates are up, so they are more than willing to come and contest Jesters around this Drake, and they will desperately need to, as Nap has got himself into quite a nice little flanking position. I wonder would the Jesters just give this up?
Just watch out for Kanatsu. He's going to be quickly trying to build up his meter, and then he's going to come running round the backside. He hasn't got Mega Gnar, so watch out for him.
It's blind in that bush. They have no idea what's going on in the pit at all as Nap's coming for the flank. He's there. Paranoia is in as well. Into the equalizer. Explosive cast. Soul falls down. Hachimecha's in the background with that cataclysm. But the bullet time will end the time of Hachimecha and the Jesters. It's a turnaround onto Milan, who does go down, but Cassin secures the Ocean Drake. In goes Kinatu with the Mega Gnar. Alchemy trying to stay alive, but there's no vision in the back end. And Cassin and Nation, the Korean import duo, are starting to run over the back end of this fight. Recap in the 1v2, having to flash away. Nation can't get close enough for a harpoon, and that will be a team fight victory for CGA alongside the Dragon.
Yeah, everything went to the favor of Rascal Jester. They got the dragon, they got the kills. They only lose a member in that exchange, and they honestly should be incredibly happy about that. Crest Gaming Act have all the vision as they come into this, and Rascal Jester just can't do anything. Nap lands an amazing, and then this equalizer just going down, absolutely removing that and forcing the flash out from Thresh as well. Then they immediately just turn around and go, okay, Hachimecha, you want to come at us? Now you're going to force the flash. That shockwave did save them a lot of time and damage. Obviously, if that misfortune was able to have a bit more backup, maybe didn't have to die. Kanatu trying real hard to do that. However, the problem is the rest of his members were really low, so he ends up just tanking everything. And Secret still does fall. Recap is able to get away, but it's a lot of super unfortunate. The side of Rascal Jester's put a lot of flashes and a lot of resources there.
They did. I mean, the shockwave was already down. Soul was dead. It looked kind of nice on the surface, but you look a little deep, and there just wasn't quite the follow-up there. And then you now look at the scoreboard and that Rumble 3-0-1, looking towards what looks like a death cap second on Rumble. We mentioned earlier that he likes to get those pen boots and then the void staff because Rumbles with low amounts of nice little invade into the lantern out. Hachimecha stealing away that blue buff was quite nice, but to bring it back, the idea is that Rumble kind of wants the penetration early, but if because that's how he makes his ultimate stick a little harder, but at this point, with the amount of gold he has, get that death cap second and instead just kill everybody. Who needs magic pen when you could just do that? Milan does take a last embrace, so we'll throw the bullet time out in defense to make the dive a little harder. Clears out the wave as well and saves the mid-tier 1.
Yeah, and what's also worth thinking about is none of the members on the side of Crest Gaming Act, none of the members on Rascal Jester are really building a huge amount of MR at the moment. So it just makes more sense from an itemization point of view and a money point of view in the short term to just keep doing the AP. He can still build the Void Staff. He can build the half part when he gets there, and he'll most definitely be building probably an Oblivion Orb to prevent that healing, because that's just a very standard thing for Rumble to be doing. It was very common with Morello and Leandries when we did see him originally, so that Morello Nomicon might be coming out at some point, but it will probably be a fair bit later. 3-0-1 already on this Rumble. Nation always wants to lead the KDA leaderboards in his games.
He definitely does, and you can see the gold lead as well. Pretty much non-existent. It's an even game one more time. The problem is the Jesters are finding some of these fights a little hard to execute, especially if they're doing when CGA get to pull all their R triggers at the same time. It is anyone's game to win right now. And of course, the Jesters, you know, have still got themselves a decent position in this game. The problem is they've still got to deal with this Rumble Ultimate, as we mentioned. They've still got to deal with Nap, who's been playing exquisitely in these team fights, and they need Sol and Recap to survive and land some really good ults themselves. They pick up the second turret, and CJ have yet to pick up one of their own, which is partly what's keeping this gold so close.
Yeah, and within that gold, Rascal Jester was also able to get a huge amount of turret plating. They got 4 in the bot lane, 2 in the top lane. I think it was at least 1 in the mid lane. I think the mid lane might have been actually maybe a negative. But obviously, that's a few hundred gold just going into the pockets of Rascal Jesters, which CGA don't have, even though they have got the kills at the moment. But what is going to be important to identify as we move into more of this mid game is going to be around these dragon fights and obviously how the barons are going to be played. At the moment, it's been a relatively slow game from both these teams. However, we identified in the pick and ban phase initialized, these are wombo combo teams. They want a team fight, so they don't want to do a lot of early game fighting. And actually, neither of these teams have a great amount of early game power outside of really Misfortune Seraphine at 6. Like, that's very strong always.
It definitely is. It's a pretty nightmarish option, and we'll see, of course, how it all plays out. We've got 20 seconds until this Ocean Drake, and the last one was a pretty cataclysmic team fight. I suspect this one will be too. CJ now trying to come in and find some vision, but they will find Hatchemetcha instead. The engage there, but the encore into the equalizer means Thresh just disappears. Once dead already, the Cataclysm comes out, but it's a Cataclysm for the Jesters. Nap, flash, body slam, he's done it again, and that means a double for Milan, but the shockwave after was amazing. There's just no follow-up because everyone else is dead. Recap at least gets Cassie, but he can't escape. Another body slam comes through, a shutdown onto Nation. And despite some heroics from Recap, it will not be enough. And CGA get a 4-for-1 in a blind invade into their own jungle.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible from the side of Crest Gaming Act. They face-tanked Cassin, who just immediately was able to tank everything that the side of Rascal Jesters pulled out. As we go into this, they hook Cassin, but watch how little damage and how tanky this early game Nocturne is. They're so disgruntled and joined, and then look at that amazing ultimates chain from there. Seraphino into the Misfortune, into the Cataclysm, and everything else, just so much, and the side of Rascal Jesters aren't able to do it. They got the Cataclysm down, it goes great. This was an amazing shockwave, but it was all for naught because, well, okay, you got Cassin. However, everybody else on your team is dead. It was a 4-for-1 for the side of Crest Gaming Act, and they got another Ocean Drake. These shouldn't be good for Rascal Jester. A stacking Ocean Drake is only going to go in the favor of Crest Gaming Act and their gorgeous team, which actually would love to have 4 Ocean Drakes.
And that feels like 2 fights in a row where Alchemy has basically pulled the encore as Hatchemetcha has gone in, and it's just, that counter engage has been brutal. And Nap on this, Gragas has been finding these flash body slams, like, with impunity. He just hasn't missed this game.
And a part of this is what's important from the side of Crest Gaming Act is they have good engage, but also pretty good disengage. You identified that with the Seraphine ultimate coming there. The Encore, really good when you want to flash ults, very similar to reminiscent to what Sona's used to do. However, Seraphine Ultimate, because of how it works, because you can do it through multiple members and it grows longer, it's actually really good disengage. So as well, the side of Rascal Jesters, they don't have an assassin. They don't have a great, like, going around the back champion, similar to like a set of the past, to engage in the back, exactly what Nap's been doing on this Gragas, because there's no one that can really go onto the back line. They haven't got an Akali, they haven't got a Zed, they haven't got any of these crazy champions that can do 0 to 0, 100 to 0.
You're kind of needing Kinatu to be timing the Mega Gnar correctly to join up with Hatchemetcha. That's kind of your option there.
But that's it, right?
Yeah, and it's definitely proving a little difficult. Hatchemetcha, of course, you know, at 2 items, relatively bruisery, can definitely cause some chaos. In fact, he's thinking about doing it now. He's going on to Cassin, who's very, very low. Has survived a while with the Gore Drinker, but does get shot down. But now Nap trying to get onto Kinatu, who gets blown back into the team, flashes away. Piercing Darkness buys health. Hatchemetcha has his Sterex pop, now throws down the Cataclysm, but is going to disappear. Will just survive on a sliver of HP, but Milan gets Oriana. The shockwave has already burned, and the turnaround fight once again goes the way of CGA as Nation claims another with the help of Milan. That will double up, does exactly what it does on the tin, and gets him a double kill. Now they're shoving through mid, and Jesters, try to find the counter engage themselves and get punished.
They get absolutely punished. They find a great pick onto Kassin. I'm not going to discount that. That was a really good job in identifying that. They get a huge amount of damage on top of this Nocturne. It's what happens after, and it's how Rascal Jester actually adapt to the fight afterwards. They find the pick onto the Nocturne. Great. How are you playing the fight afterwards? Well, if you still get comboed by the Encore, by the Misfortune Ultimate, and Rumble's Ultimate all coming down at the same time, you've done this. This is a third fight in a row that Crest Gaming Act have just gone, what about if we just stand still, do this, and you guys walk into us? They've done this 3 times. Rascal Jesters, please stop doing this because you've had some gorgeous team fights. They did use a huge amount to try and kill Kassin, and he just doesn't perish anywhere near as fast. But then watch how the rest of this team fight out, and look at the layout of how zoned up the members of Rascal Jesters get. Look at this, they're perfect for this Cataclysm, and they all zone up because they want to be behind the Cataclysm of Hatchemecha. Exactly, that's just what the side of Crest Gaming Act want. This Jarvan pick is starting to cause more problems than help.
Yeah, Misfortune throws a beach ball at Kinatu, and he decides he doesn't want to play volleyball anymore.
No, he doesn't. He really doesn't.
Yeah, you kind of see the idea. They get the pick, and it's like, all right, it's a 4v5. The problem is it's a 4v5 when there's still explosive cask. A 6-0-4 Rumble with Equalizer, and a 4-1-5 Misfortune with bullet time. That is pretty terrifying all the same, even if it is the 5v4, and you've already used a number of your ultimates to get the pick on the Nocturne, the extended fight. Definitely ending up a little rough there. Nation now as well, looking to shove in this top side and get third turret of the game for CGA, and they have got themselves about a 3,000 gold lead, or 2.5, honestly, if I count out those 0.5 or so that Rascal Jesters have at the end of that. But we've got 20 seconds until an Ocean Drake fight. The last 2 have gone horribly for Rascal Jesters, and look at those ultimate timers on CGA. Turns out they're all back up off cooldown again.
It's like they timed this at some point, initialized. It's like they knew exactly what they were doing. Nahun is teleporting in, so he will be here in time because he did push out that top lane. So in case they do win this fight, they'll have immediately a location to go either top lane or to this bot lane as everyone is getting ready. Get your vocal cords ready, sir.
I am prepared. Are the Jesters, though, is the question we have to ask. They have at least got uncontestable vision with this speed shrine courtesy of the Scuttle Crab. Dragon started up. Nap off to the side here, looking to zone people off. Look at Kanatu's Rage Bar as well. Yeah. Exactly. Mega. That's the Paranoia Pop. That's a hook onto Nap, but he's so damn tanky. Hatchemecha steals it. He's got the Dragon, but now he needs to get out. He's desperately low. Cassin in the back line, getting in trouble. Huge power up, and the Equalizer finds so many, but look at the back end as well. Kanatu's found one, and the turnaround fight is maybe here as Sol trying to stay alive, but the flash body slam again from Nap, trying to win it out. Will get it even with the last embrace coming through. Cassin trying to run down Secret. He's got a double at the back end of the fight as well. The fear will proc, but Secret has got a blast cone to try and escape. He's still being haunted by his nightmares. The Flay a little early. The challenging smite comes through. It's an ace for CGA, even if they lose the Drake. They lost Milan. They lost Alchemy, but everyone else survives, and the ace is a beautiful thing to watch.
That Rumble ultimate was truly something to die for. Literally, if you are the side of Rascal Jesters, as we come into this beautiful replay and we get to identify this. Obviously, Hatchemecha stealing away this dragon will mean they have Dragon Soul moving into the rest of this. But watch this. The side of Crest Gaming Act gets caught out halfway through this when they are doing. I wish I could just slam a pause button here because look, Rascal Jester get onto the backline. This is the best fight that Rascal Jesters have had in a while, and Nahun is just left alone with 3 members of the side of Rascal Jester. He should have died there if Secret had landed the hook. He missed the hook there, and because of that, Crest Gaming Act are able to find a few ways back into this. They get multiple kills on every other side, and that's all she really writes afterwards. Oh, it's so unfortunate, but Rascal Jesters, they did get the dragon, so at least there's that.
Nation spent the last half of that fight on a sliver of HP. Kanatu went for the crunch in, and I think that was single-digit health points that was left on Nation. Still survived. Look at the damage that came out across that fight. The extended Nocturne wailing away at people. Massive damage out of the Rumble. You know, Sol did a decent amount. Hatchemecha, also good stuff. It's just not quite there.
This was the first big team fight that Cassin didn't die in the first 10 seconds of, and look at what he gets to do if he doesn't. It's just destructive.
It really was. I've also got to call out Nap there as well. He managed to body slam Hatchemetcha mid-lantern ride to safety, which meant the Jesters were not in a position to play the fight the way they wanted. Hatchemetcha had to go in deep and got caught out. Yes, they lost the Dragon, but Nap, what an amazing body slam to start that fight off. And then he finds the turnaround flash body slam to get Sol in the 1v1 as well. So this guy has been having a killer game on the Gragas.
Yeah, absolutely. Nap has been body blocking, literally both for his backline, but also going in and physically body slamming the enemy team. It's been all over the place. They do look like they want to fight around this Baron, or at least try and do something. And Kassin's just taking huge poke damage from Sol.
Yeah, he is. Does avoid the hook, but now
Nap's
the
coming in.
teleport is coming through. Nap is here, and he might be looking for a bit of engage himself. And CGA are on the invade. Well, actually, they're going to go for the Cataclysm in mid, though. Milan caught out a little flashes away, paranoia in response, and we've seen these turnarounds before. Cassie going in for 4. Sol goes down, and now the healing is huge. He goes golden with the stopwatch. Konatu goes in, shut down onto Nocturne, courtesy of the Orianna, and Shockwave is fantastic. Recap can't quite find the kill onto Milan, who goes golden himself, and now Nation is chasing people down. Flame Spitter active, but Rascal Jester's come out on top in that fight. It's a 1-for-3 in their favor.
That was so big from Konatu with the Meganar, with the Orianna, with Recap. Those two players, the rookie and the retired veteran who came back, showing that they've still got a fair few things and they don't just need this power bot lane.
They absolutely don't, but Nap and Nation are here to try and cause chaos. Look at the health bars. They've respawned, and they're going to Hatchemetch out, but that does stop Jesters getting anything much more off the back of the fight. They don't get a dragon, which they had to steal the last time out. They don't even get to turn around to Baron, and we'll see this replay and watch Hatchemetch just pile in on Milan.
Yeah, this is what started this whole fight and actual debacle. Immediately then, obviously, the paranoia gets thrown out, and now look at where all the members of Crest Gaming Act are. They're nowhere near him at the moment. Yes, they're able to kill the center, but then no one's really disjointed. Crest Gaming Act get thrown into this awkward circle, and God, they combo womboed. This is the first time we see Rascal Jesters landing their combo, and we can see it being just as destructive, and they can play a lot longer of a team fight because of how their combo works.
Yeah, I've also got to call out as well, Nap, explosive cast people out of the bullet time in that fight as well, which was a little rough. That saved a couple people's lives, and that little bit of anti-synergy as well, it hasn't been seen in this game, but it is always a risk as Nap maybe in a spot of bother, as well as Cassin, who's getting engaged on in this bot side, pulls the paranoia. GA goes down, and this Nocturne is in a world of hurt, but now flashing in, looking to heal him. The Gore Drinker heal is huge! He will, however, surely fall at the back end of the fight. Shockwave misses. That is a big tool down, and the Encore comes across and gets 2. Now Hatchemetcha is in a Cataclysm, but it's a big, massive frying pan for the opposing squad. The Meganar. Hughes is as well, but it's a triple kill already for this Rumble. He's got a Quadra! Is this the Penta for him? They're gonna try and save it. Kinatu goes golden, and they're gonna try and give it over. Nature wants it with that massive. Come on, give me the harpoon.
Kinatu.
He's trying to run away. Kinatu, don't you dare run out of here. He's gonna get away with it, and Nation can't get the pentakill. 11-0 and 6 with a death cap complete. Nation coming into the LJL and having another one of these amazing games.
Boo, no Penta, no Penta. We wanted Nation to be on all of the Twitter pages for getting the Penta, but alright, we're not allowed to. Kinatu is coming around.
Here. Okay, well, depending on how long the timer is, it's a fairly long form for the Penta, but I don't think CGA want to even hunt for it, and that means it's Ocean Soul Point, and we'll see this replay because it looks like Cassin getting caught out.
Absolutely, it does. From the fog of war, he will have absolutely no idea that multiple members of Rascal Jester are coming around. However, immediately pops the paranoia and then gets that. It looks like a GA gets popped.
Yeah.
Immediately comes out huge healing from that Gore Drinker, as you identified in the cast, and then a bunch of stuff had been used. We're immediately coming out of that. I thought we were going to get to compliment Kinatu again on these Meganar ultimates, because that is a point. Meganar ultimates have been pretty hit and miss so far in the LJL, but Kinatu, so far this game, the few big ones he's landed have been very game-changing for Rascal Jester. Need to see more of those, though, if Rascal Jester have a good hope in winning this game.
It's only 3,000 gold the difference for 34 minutes. Isn't that much? It's 3 towers to 2. It's just been a bloodbath. No one's been able to push in that deep because there's just been fights
Over a kill a minute, sir.
Oh man, it's 35 kills in 34 minutes, and we're no closer necessarily to knowing who's going to win this game. It's 3 Drakes apiece. These kind of late game fights well, these mid to late game fights have largely been going away of CGA, but the last two been a little more even in the Jester's favor. And they've certainly got enough items now on the carries. It's 4 on Orianna, though critically no death cap. Of course, it's 3 on the Gnar, 3, of course, on Senna as well. But look over at this Rumble.
Nathan,
4
yeah.
items, including a death cap and the Void Staff, which is just so much damage. And Jesters just don't really have the easiest ways to disengage from the Rumble, especially if they find themselves trapped in a cataclysm they put down themselves.
Yeah, a bit of a problem that we're also going to see with Soul at the moment. He's only on 60 souls at the moment. He's a little bit further behind than he should be at this point in time. So he is going to struggle to do that damage. Sadly, being 1 and 5 does, even though he has got 9 assists, he hasn't got quite the gold or the value that you would expect from the souls. He's kind of in the most awkward spot in a Senna. It's going to probably take him at least 5 or 6 more minutes to actually reach the soul count. That's really going to push him over the top.
This late in the game, though, it means Baron, it means Ocean Soul, and things get very, very scary. Kanatu and the rest of Rascal Jester trying to hold on in this fight right now. And it's all to play for in the next few minutes. All to set up for Baron, as we mentioned, is live. We've still got a few minutes on that Ocean Soul for either of these squads. And it is at least nearly at the 70 soul mark for now for Senna as well. You know, she's already got the 3 range increases every 20 souls, 60 souls plus. She's getting to that very late game position. Even if she's died the 5 times, definitely becoming increasingly difficult. Picks up her 4th item, rapid fire cannon as well. So she's very strong at this point.
Just depends if she's hit that 70 soul mark or not. She was at 60 when it ticked over. We're waiting for that notification or when we next see a Senna on our screen if she's got it. Because if she has, really good chance that Rascal Jester can turn any of these fights because Senna will have just hit her late game power spike and will only proceed to go even, get even stronger as this game goes on. She does have that benefit over Milan on this Misfortune. However, Misfortune ults don't care. They can 0 to 100 a Senna on 100 souls. So going to be important, the placement as we come into this. And we're going to have to wait, Initialize. We will have to wait for this team fight because it will not come until this dragon is probably very close to being up.
Well, we'll keep our eyes and see how it goes. We've got a minute until that Drake, and that leaves us in a bit of a waiting period. It's been back and forth and bloody all game, but we have
something
got
of
a
note.
slight break.
The Seraphine Moonstaff has actually fully been completed with boots. So this Seraphine is actually going to be taking out way more health than anything else that the side of Rascal Jesters will not be able to match that. So they are going to need this anti-healing coming out from Orianna more than ever before. It's going to be really important. We haven't got a lot of anti-healing over on the side of Rascal Jester. So if this fight is prolonged, we've got triple Ocean Drake with the Seraphine Moonstaff. So if this happens over, if the fight lasts longer than 30 seconds, huge favor in CGA, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll see how it goes. That Moonstaff definitely potentially a big game changer here. See, of course, 20-odd seconds until this Ocean Drake. And this mid lane priority fight is.
Oh, you can feel the game's on a knife's edge.
Oh, that's a big beat drop. Hatchemetcha isn't going to get engaged on. Cassin sort of stepping forward with wondering. Death sentence misses. And Kinatu stepping forward a little way until he's got that Mega Gnar. His recap takes a big double up that went straight through Kinatu. That means this Orianna, already at half HP before the fight can start, could prove volatile, pivotal in this fight. And Cassin starting up the Ocean Drake while the rest of the Jesters are trying to funnel their way through. Secret pops the Shurelius. That's a massive paranoia. The Drake goes down, Ocean Soul secured, and Thresh is dead already. Cassin now going in. It's already the one-man advantage. It's already the Ocean Soul. The Shockwave hits 2, but there's so much healing, so much shielding. Cassin in the back end trying to heal his way up. We'll go down to the GA one more time, but he'll respawn shortly. Hatchemetcha trying to get out of the wall. Does get out. It's a 1 kill over the Jesters, but they get the Ocean Soul.
And they're also healthy.
And they are also healthy, so they'll just move straight over to this Baron fight. They've still got the Equalizer up off cooldown, I believe, which means they can still look for this. Well, not quite off cooldown, I apologize, but it's not that far away, and they feel more than content to start up this Baron and really seize control of this game.
Well, you just have to look at the rest of the ultimates. Paranoia is almost coming up, as well as that explosive casket. That's so much of the power from the side of Crest Gaming Act is almost up already. We already see that explosive casket up. The side of Crest Gaming Act played that fight beautifully. I apologize for interrupting you and just saying Crest Gaming Act is so full, but look at how
Soul.
much that equalizer does. It just
Oh.
forces Soul out of this whole team fight. And now Crest Gaming Act, after securing the dragon at this point, that's the important part. They've already got the dragon. They're now able to collapse. The Seraphine ultimate is gorgeous, but I have to give credit to Recap there. That shockwave definitely saved Hachimecha's life. Huge coming out there. GA does get procced, and the members of Rascal Jester are able to get that. The Flag and Drag does get Hachimecha out of there, but they get a kill. They also
Yeah,
get they also get the dragon, and the dragon soul moving forward is going to be a mob problem. But let's be real, the biggest problem now for Rascal Jester is this Baron.
yeah, let's get ready to rumble has never been a
Oh
more
yeah.
appropriate phrase in this game. 12, 0, and 6 for Rumble, who's just gone for a last needlessly rod, because, you know, why not? I'm wondering what he would build that into, like Lich Bane? Surely not.
I was like, wait, the immediate one that came to mind was like staff, and I was like, wait a second, that's mana. He doesn't want mana. I'm actually a
I
little.
know, like, he's just more raw AP. It's that late in the game.
Well, that might be it, right? He's already got a pot. We can see that little hue on them. Nation thinks I want max damage coming into this next team fight because guess what? I don't think this game's going to last much longer than this Baron buff, as Crest Gaming Act are planning to engage onto Rascal Jester.
Yeah, they might well be. It's very late. Here comes the equalizer. It cuts half the
Oh!
HP of so many people, and Oriana just falls to the misfortune. She's just gone. Massive equalizer already comes through. That's the shockwave not used. Man down, base broken, and Rascal just have to defend their base at a man disadvantage already. Big damage onto Nation. Senna doing a lot of weapon. Now she's getting engaged on as well, trying to stay alive in the back end of this fight. Running back to the fountain to try and stay alive is Secret, where Sol goes down again to Milan, and this game is over, Lexi. No way, no how. Kinatu gets shut down by none other than Nation, of course, for his 14th kill of the game. He gets a KDA of 20. What? That's 21 in this game because of how massive he was. CGA come out after a massive teamfight game.
Crest Gaming Act, and specifically Nahun and Kassin being hugely important members of the side. But let's be real, every member of Crest Gaming Act was hugely important in that fight. Alchemy was landing multiple member Seraphine ultimates, and really everyone showed up. However, Initialize, I need a bit of a moment to take a
Oh, yeah.
break and regain my thoughts, as I might just gush over what I just witnessed.
Completely true. And to do that, we need to go for about a minute or two. We'll be back with an analyst desk once we've caught our breaths and see how it works out from there.
Sounds good.
What a game we have witnessed, brought to you, of course, by Initialize and Alexi, but we're bringing it back to all three of us for the post-game analysis and recap of our thoughts on the game, which is, of course, CGA versus Rascal Jester in our third game of today's coverage. Things started off a lot better for CGA than the last game. They still gave over some early objectives, but of course CGA at least managed to recoup themselves some gold and some kills in this early game. So Initialize, I want to go to you first on this bit. What really changed for CGA in terms of the way they were playing? Because, of course, they weren't playing around, the Jinzao, that early power spike from the jungle. They were playing around the Nocturne instead. How did they handle that in the different composition they were bringing into this game, in the early game at least?
So this time the plan kind of worked out in the early game. So it was like, okay, we want to focus around the Gragas and this Rumble in the mid, and we're going to play to that top side where we've had our strength, and we're going to get some ganks off. They force the flash out of the Gnar, they come back for a gank, repeat gank, and get the kill. Great, playing to the top side, bottom side of the map left to weak side, and that was kind of in the plan to an extent, but maybe not dropping 20 CS at 5 minutes is probably not what they were after, but it at least was a little bit more to what they were hoping, right? Get these topside to get this topside ahead, use the level 6 spike to try and start forcing some fights around these objectives, and go from there.
Okay, I think we're just losing Sam a little bit. We did catch the end of those words. But I guess early game was only so much of this game, because both teams drafted, shall we say, the largest team fight comps I have seen in quite some time. All of the champions on this Rift were... we had some unique picks. We had Jarvan coming back. We had a number of others. One of the ones which we saw reprised was this Gragas for Nap in topside. We'll talk about a couple of other players later on. Don't worry, we're not skipping that. But Lexi, I want to get your opinion on Nap, on the Gragas in these team fights, because it seems like once again, Nap, if he gets ahead in these games, really has an impact in the 5v5s.
Yeah, absolutely. This top lane was relatively even for a long period of time. Eventually, Nap was able to secure himself a few hundred gold lead over Kanatu and basically held that for most of the mid to early game. But once 20 minutes was over and both these teams had all their items, Nap was so impactful in so many different spots. He was repeatedly coming around the back and just going into the middle of 3 members of Rascal Jester and just going, hello, I'm a big man, and then just blowing the whole team up. And it was like, oh, Rascal Jester was like, you've got anti-our comp in your comp with us also doing the same comps. It was honestly very frustrating for the members of Rascal Jester. And early game, Nap controlled a lot of these fights. Kassin was popping the ult, but Nap was controlling them.
And of course, Kassin on the Nocturne had a really good game too, often found his way into the backline, had multi-man Gore Drinkers to keep himself alive. There is the elephant in the room, though. It's actually an elephant in the mid lane. It's not actually even an elephant. It's a Yordle in a mech. I know that Lexi was saying that these comps are trying to achieve the same thing in these big comps. Orianna doesn't necessarily have as much range and backline access, though, Sam, do they, as a Rumble ultimate?
Oh no, and Rumble went deathless in that game, did not build a stopwatch, went for just a spare needlessly large drop because he was that far ahead, and the amount of damage Rumble did in that game was absurd, and credit to the Jesters for holding on as well as they did in the face of such fire and fury. But Sol was dying a lot early on in these teamfights because he was desperately trying to stay alive after Nocturne comes flying at him, after Nap comes flying at him on the Gragas, and then on top of that he's got an on-call and an equalizer to try and disengage from as well. He never gets to stand and fight, he never gets to be a late game center, because every time he's getting burnt to a crisp.
And just a reminder for those of you that didn't catch the item builds or have been catching up with particularly the LPL where Rumble's been played, this is Night Harvester Rumble 2. I just hit my mic, I should not do that. So as opposed to Luden's Protobalt, there's no magic pen on that mythic. You don't end up getting yourself a large amount of flat pen like the old Rumbles used to do with Leandris, and that does mean that there's no damage over time either. It's Night Harvester instead. You get that initial pop of damage, it gives you a bucket load of AP, and Rumble has pretty good AP scalings too. You do get that magic pen with your second item for that voice up, very effective in the current metagame, and of course your boots too. The pops were just incredible. What that meant, though, Lexi, was that there wasn't really much to do at the start of the fight for the Rascal Jester, and it meant that recap, even though they managed to get some big ultimates, didn't really land them at the important part, the crucial part, the start of the team fights.
Yeah, that was a big issue for the side of Rascal Jesters. While they had the beautiful combo of J4 Oriana, tried, tested, wins worlds. It's that good. But it doesn't matter if you're against a Rumble who literally goes, "Please do it. Please come at me. I'm okay with this." I will
Seraphine.
ult. Yeah, Seraphine goes, "Is it okay for me to
Seraphine go,
ult
"Brr."
through you both?" With Misfortune ults as well. And Kassin was more than happy to be the front line for a lot of these fights for a while. Was tanking huge amounts of damage. Gordring did back up, and Nahum was just repeatedly never getting caught out. Now, he did go very low in one of those team fights.
The dragon fight, yeah.
Perpetually low, but wasn't quite enough.
And speaking of those dragon fights, we had a lot of them. Both teams did get to Soul Point. Of course, it was CJ that ended up with that Ocean Soul with 4 back-to-back dragons in terms of, well, 4 dragons in their inventory. So, Sam, you got to shout a heck of a lot.
I did.
Was there any particular point where you felt like this game broke open, or was it just whoever won the last team fight seemed to be in control?
I think, honestly, it felt like most of the time it was like the Jesters managed to play the map relatively smart, considering they were in a very difficult position. They managed to get a lot of early turrets, which CGA took a little while to get to. They managed to get a couple early drakes and steal a third drake as well from Hachimetra going in. But that was kind of against the run of play, because they were constantly trying to find a way to survive against this Rumble that went from 3-0-1 to 7-0-1 to 11-0-7 and the like. And it's like, what do we do against this? Because it was very difficult for them to actually find both the Rumble and the Misfortune at the same time, especially when they are having this Nocturne diving on their center, which they have to try and peel for, especially when they have this Rumble that's coming down as they're trying to step forwards. And I'll give credit to Kanatu and to Recap for finding 1 or 2 big Rumble ults that sort of kept them in the game and stopped it being easy for them to go for Baron and stuff sometimes. It held the game on longer than perhaps it should have done, and the Ocean Soul fights were a constant problem in some days, because obviously the Jesters had to come, CGA had to come over and fight for those, even if they were winning them. So they still in team fight.
Okay, so finishing off on that point, you may get another chance, both of you, to praise some of those Rascal Jesters members, because they have one last game today, and we have one last game today. It will be V3 Esports taking on the aforementioned Rascal Jesters in Game 4 of Week 3 of the Spring 2021 LJL split, so do not go anywhere. We're going to cut to a quick break, and we'll join you after.